Jeez, man, I played so much Dark Souls. I mean, Elden Ring, the new game. That game is awesome. Holy crap, that game is awesome. I must have beat like 3 or 4 bosses tonight. Played like 7 hours. I only like kind of jumped on because I was like, I think I originally was gonna take a study break, and then I stayed on for like 7 hours. But yeah, it's like 2 a.m. now, and I had to force myself to stop playing, but it's also because I was kind of stuck on this big wolf boss, Ragadan or something. I don't know. I could probably beat him if I just like was fresh and not super exhausted. But I upgraded the Great EP or Epee to like +10, and it's doing a lot of damage to everything. But originally, I wanted to do like a faith holy weapons build. And I finally did find a holy weapon to use, but I think it requires like 30 faith or something crazy. And mine's at like 19, so it's like needs like 11 more levels, I guess, to use it. And I don't even know if it's gonna be that good, but yeah, I did want to do a faith build. And also, bonus of playing faith is that you can use fire spells like pyromancies. I guess they're under the faith tree or like the faith path this time. I don't know if they always were in all the other Souls games, but yeah, game's just awesome. My favorite boss so far was Godric the Grafted, because when you get him to half health, he rips the head off of a dragon and grafts it onto one of his arms, and then he has a dragon head for an arm, and it's just so bloody and gory and awesome. Yeah, that fight was pretty sweet. I didn't actually even think I was gonna beat him when I went into that fight. I just like went into it because I was like, hey, let's try this out. And actually, I pretty much easily got him to half health, and the summon basically tanked him the whole time, and then basically just beat him. She did die at the end, but I think I just had a few more hits, and he got staggered, and I got like a critical, and then I just needed one more poke, and he was dead. And then after that, I just explored the entire map as far as I could go. Like a lot of areas are un unavailable until I guess you beat something or get something or somehow to get to them. I don't know, but I must have explored the entire part of the map that is explorable. I think it's over half. I don't know, but it was huge. That map is massive, but yeah, I just kind of like free roamed around, and then um like spent whatever time at areas, and honestly I wasn't taking my time with anything. I was just kind of ripping through. um I don't know, it's really huge. Like the map is so big, and like thankfully they give you the horse immediately when you play the game, and the horse runs fairly fast, so it makes the map not too bad. But I think that would be my only issue, and I'm sure some people would be like, that's a plus, but the map is so big, and like I've run into like a lot of dead ends, and I was kind of getting annoyed with how stuck I was. But then finally I was like, well, I probably need to look through some of these things that I picked up, and like I looked through the map, one of the maps that I picked up, and it was like basically a map pointing out where to go to get a key to unlock a new area, and I like located it, and then found that key, and then just got into that new area. Holy crap, that new area is so sweet. It looks like Hogwarts when you first go in there. It's like the Sorcerer's Castle. Yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, I've had a lot of like just like whoa moments already in this game, and like and just like not wanting to put the controller down, and like that's what a game should be like. Like I've missed playing games like that, and I think I really did feel like that. It brings me back to the first Souls games. I think like playing Dark Souls the first time, because like I played a bit of Demon Souls on PS3, but then I just went straight to Dark Souls without even beating Demon Souls. And I remember being so into that game, the first Dark Souls, and like just the feeling of like not knowing what's next and like slowly going forward. It's such a good feeling, but that game was awesome. But it felt like the paths you could choose were a little like more streamlined, but still the path, like the options in that game were amazing. Like that game was just perfect. Um, but the Elden Ring, like I'm a little bit confused with the when you find a new point of grace or whatever they're called, like a new, they're not bonfires, they're like grace or whatever now, but when you find a new grace resting point, some of them give off like a indicator of where you're supposed to go, which is just a stream of light, and some of them don't. And so I'm like wondering like what the what the deal is with that. But then I also like I follow those streams of light, and sometimes I don't feel like they really take me like to places that I know I'm supposed to go. Like I'll go in that direction and I won't really find anything. Like at one part I found one and it like brought me to, it like pointed at an elevator that doesn't work, and there was like a message by the old lady who reads your hand saying like you have to find like a hidden way around or something. And it's like I don't know, but like the was that the old lady who said that? I think there was a ghost and an old lady who said kind of the same thing, but I don't know. The game is like a lot more, I don't know, like less. It's just so, I'm struggling to like describe it. It's so like open world and obviously not hand holdy. Like none of the Dark Souls were hand holdy, but it's almost like I don't want to like be too critical, but it's almost like too hard to figure out what you're supposed to do next and borderline on frustrating at some points. So, yeah, yeah, I was definitely a little bit frustrated at some points, not like frustrated, but like more like confused and like where do I go, and like felt like I was just running around. Um, and I did kind of waste a lot of time on a couple bosses because I didn't know if there was another like way I was supposed to go, but like you have to understand the map is just so huge. The map is massive. Even like the parts that are just available initially, it's like whoa, it's so big. And like I kind of did this where I went too far into like a random direction early on, and I realized I wasn't supposed to be there because everything was way too strong. But that kind of like, but like I kind of like went through and I was just running around trying to find items to like get strong enough so I could go back and beat like the early bosses. But it was really fun, kind of like getting stronger and then being able to beat like that first boss on the bridge. But yeah, definitely a fun game. Super fun. Just like super enthralling. And like the pacing's great. And like there is a decent amount of like instant reward and gratification throughout the game. Like there's the map's huge and there's so many of those grace points. And when you're not stuck and you're like just like exploring on the paths and finding new grace resting points and finding new enemy camps and like I don't even like you don't even have to slay the enemies is the great thing. I just run through the camp and like grab the item whatever it is and then go past and like you'll find like little mini bosses around and like some of the mini boss fights have been pretty awesome and like you don't even have to like try super hard on some of the like smaller bosses that are just like at a ruined temple or something. You can just ride around them on your horse and poke them to death. Like that's what I've been doing for some of them. And I've had like a fair amount of frustration already at like the main hub world. There's like a PvP zone that starts you out against a random like NPC summon and I was stuck on him for like 10 tries and then I gave up and then I went around other places, got stronger, came back and then killed him after like 3 tries and that was like so satisfying and I was like oh man that Godric fight, just like going back to that, I was so happy when I beat that boss. Like I was like yes, like that's the best thing about these hard Souls games is like you get those awesome achievement moments when you beat a boss and like it doesn't feel like a grind. It feels like you just got better at the game. And it's such a like nice level of achievement. It's not like you just spent a ton of time grinding. It's like you can get your character better, but you also still have to be good at the game and like be able to dodge and like you have to learn the boss patterns and like yeah, it's pretty sweet. So yeah, I just like been pretty sucked into that game. Oh man, but I have a programming assignment on Tuesday, so tomorrow's Monday. So I just have tomorrow to like do my final amount of preparation. I solved like definitely two. I think I solved two out of the five practice questions, and then the other three don't look too hard. But I'm definitely gonna have to solve all five, and then I want to solve the array practice questions, and I want to look over maybe the lab solutions because it might give me some hints and onto how to do some of these exercise questions. And I feel like if I can really understand them, then I'll be okay. I'm definitely like catching up on programming. I'm not like doing amazing or anything, but I'm definitely catching up like a little bit. I would say my knowledge is probably like if if there my knowledge is probably like enough right now to get like 40 maybe 50% on the exam. So tomorrow I want to bring it up to like 75%, hopefully. Like I'm shooting for 75% on the exam. I would be so satisfied with that mark. And it sounds low, but programming is like I wish I did not take this class. Like I signed up for programming intro, programming 1 and programming 2 all planned out. So like barely passed intro and barely passed programming 1 with like a C, and now I'm in programming 2 and I'm just like oh my god, why did I take this class? But I have to pass it, and if I get a 75% on the exam I'll be really happy with that. The exam's worth 25% of the grade, so that would be like um, around like 18% on it. So yeah, that'd be fine if I can just get a C or like a 75% on the exam. I'd be happy with that. So yeah, tomorrow I'm just gonna have to focus, not play Elden Ring. Just gonna have to focus on prepping for the exam, like I said. Oh, and tomorrow the other thing I have to do is this hopefully won't take too long, but I have to submit my pathway to graduate studies research application. It's actually due by February 28th, so I'm hoping I can still submit it tomorrow. I kind of just put it off forever, but yeah, that's the procrastination um bad habits that I have, is like putting everything off. But I need to like finish that and then submit it. Hopefully it won't take too long, and what that'll do is just give me something to do in the summer that'll directly benefit applying to graduate school. So it's pretty important. Um, yeah, I should really submit that. Oh man, I'm so like waiting for school to be done or wanting it to be done. My GPA is not even gonna be that high. It's gonna be like hopefully 3.3, but probably more like 3.2, and that's pretty freaking low because it's like out of 4.5. So like I don't even think that's a B minus. I think a B minus is like 3.5, or it might be a B minus, but I think a B is like 3.5 or something. So like yeah, most grad schools they want you to have at least a B. So like it's just like, you know, I've stressed over it a lot, but here we are, and all that stress over the years, like I don't know. I really wish I stressed over it more early on, because like the stress later on was like really unnecessary if I would have just somehow built my life better around school and studying, and had a plan. Like I talked about this last time. If I really had that plan, oh, just thinking about it is just like having a plan is just so smart. Like if I could go back and talk to myself earlier, my earlier self who had no guidance, didn't take anything seriously, and always just sort of banked on doing things last minute, but at the same time was super anxious about not knowing what to do in life. Oh, I would be able to help me so much. I would be able to help me so much. I think like the biggest tips I would give myself too would be to remove remove people, like a lot of people to remove, and remove my phone basically, and also try and live alone, and like essentially almost like start a new life, but like not so extreme as starting a completely new life, but like starting a new life of habits basically. And like I would just be like, yeah, it's gonna be okay, because like it sounds super it I knew that back then, and it sounded super scary back then, but it honestly all works out. Like just what they say about like when you build the life you want, like the people who are meant to be there show up. It's so true. Like I was just so afraid and like clinging and hanging on to the very few things that made me happy and gave me security earlier on in life, like a sense of worth, and like took away boredom, like clinging to having something to alleviate boredom too was like a big part of it, like, and just feeling like I wasn't worth enough back then, like to warrant um, going it alone, and like my self-esteem was so low and so crushed back then. Like it really was. And like my identity was like so fragile, and like I had so many things hidden about what I wanted to do and what I thought was important in life, and I never really had anyone to talk to about the things that I thought were cool and interesting. And to me, I was always like desperate for someone to talk to and validate me, because I didn't have that growing up, and I didn't really have that in my friends. You know, I mostly just had invalidation from my friends. And I was like, even like saying that now, like thinking about friends being people who should validate you and like support you and that you can talk to about anything and you can trust, that is such a foreign concept to me. Like, that just goes to show how dysfunctional and damaged I was, and the relationships I had were growing up. Like, that is so just eye opening to me now. Like, thinking about what a friend should be, and like in my heart already, I'm getting like an afraid feeling. Like, thinking like friends should be supportive. You should be able to trust your friends. Your friends shouldn't mock you. Like, it doesn't like, in my heart, I'm like, oh, I want to run away. Like, because for some reason that doesn't feel safe, you know? I just feel like the word friends has never really meant that for me. And like, when I think of friends, like my definition of friends in my mind is, it was so warped, but like I can see it now and it still is warped because I still feel that way. Um, like insecure about friends. And like, don't even get me started on family too. Like, same with family, like none of those qualities of like how things should be, like loving, supportive, um, trustworthy, um, can talk about my feelings and what's on my mind. Like with family, no way. Like, no possible way. It's just not possible with my family, like the way I was raised. And like, thinking about it, it's like that was so wrong. And I shouldn't have had to deal with that growing up. And it's had such a lasting effect on me now that I'm older. And I still feel shame thinking about it, like thinking about like how badly it damaged me, and like feel ashamed to say that I do feel damaged. Even now I can feel myself like my mind starting to like dissociate, to move away from the feelings. It's like so powerful, but it's difficult to process, you know? It's really difficult to process. It's just like, I don't know. It's just very strange to think about and like put into words and then feel things as I do it, you know? And expressing feelings is something that's quite foreign to me. True feelings, you know? I haven't really done that a whole lot in my life. But yeah, speaking things is a lot different than thinking them. Speaking things kind of makes things real in a way, um, especially when you talk to someone else. Like, I'm not even talking to anyone right now, um, unless someone watches this. But when you actually talk to somebody, um, I don't know. You definitely need to talk to someone who's support, like who's able to hear you out. But when you feel like safe and comfortable to say what you're really thinking, and you're able to speak it and sing it, like especially when someone's there to hear you, it really has a, a powerful effect, more powerful than thinking. Because like I've thought a lot in my life, and thinking, I don't know, it's like in my mind I'm a much harsher person. In my mind I'm a much more critical, especially on myself, but like critical to other people too. And like, yeah, thinking is a lot different than speaking. But yeah, anyway, I think that's like, I'm really like talking about like socializing is a good thing, like person to person, and like genuine talking and dialogue where both people can really say what they want to say, and listen to each other. But like the further we get from that to like typing things, and I think typing is probably one of the worst over social media and just text message too. But and then in person starts to like mimic text and memes and like the pacedness. I'm trying to recall when I was growing up, but things were different. Things were not so disconnected, and um, there was more space to breathe. And I'm almost like imagining it like on how I see sometimes older videos of like the early 2000s, but I do remember back then people were different, like more engaged, like they looked at each other and they spoke to each other in, I want to say, a more natural, normal way. So I think things have really changed, with regards to communication. And I think it's leading to a lot of people being more anxious because we're not getting that like actual communication. And people jump ahead in other people's thoughts all the time too. Like maybe it's just something that I notice due to my own manner of communication, but I notice that it's hard to truly have a dialogue. It's like people are just like anxious to get to the point and like say what they want to say or finish someone else's thought. Yeah. So anyway, I'm sure it's not that way for everyone and everywhere, but I do think it's kind of turning that way. Like, to use real world example, I won't name any names, but I have a friend who, I don't know what's going on with them, but I have multiple friends like this. But it's like they only give, they only put in communication wise as much as you give them. And it's like, this leads into something else I'm really frustrated about, and I notice this with everyone. It's like they're children, and not like happy children. It's like they're um like the silent treatment type children where they don't say much unless you say something. And like I don't know what's going on there, but it's like there's an issue with energy flow or something, wherein people are just trying to take, and they're not just like in a natural state of like giving, and both are giving and together something greater comes out. It's like one is trying to take from the other energy wise, you know? And I really notice that's like the number one thing that I don't like is battery drainers over battery chargers, um, or like people who you can just right away tell that you have to put in a lot of like effort to get to have like a decent conversation. And I think this is like part of social media and part of the education system as well, where it trains us to to consume and respond, not to create. So like responding is very easy. When you hear something, it your mind automatically develops a story depending on what you heard, and also develops parameters. So like you're aware of a ton of things in your mind, that you've come across before, um, that you have experience with. And when you hear or see or experience something, some information from someone or from what you're seeing or whatever, you're accessing what you know. And well, first you're building a you're building parameters of the conversation, or of what to say. And like maybe I'm making assumptions about myself, but I know for a fact that things are like a story, and people just kind of like, I'm getting tripped up because I'm trying to like not assume that everyone thinks the way I do, and not just explain how I think. But for the sake of this, I'll just say what I want to say, just to get it out there. Um, but yeah, so when people hear something or see something, it automatically like sets them up to respond. Like they set up to respond to what they see. And that's why they say like life imitates art, and art art imitates life, and then life imitates art, you know? It's because most people are not that creative. Most people are good at consuming and responding based on something they learned probably a long time ago. You know, they say we learn most of what we need to function in the first 7 years of our life. So it's like a lot of people um, pick up a technique of like acting in situations, and they just get a little bit of information, and then they respond. And I feel like most people are kind of like just like that, you know, waiting for someone else to give them options that they want. And a lot of times I think this is to fix the options they want, or to fix their life or fix their problems, um, consciously or unconsciously. And so, yeah, I do think that's true. And I think this is where like cult leaders and salespeople and grifters and just, you know, um, narcissists and psychopaths really have an edge on everyone else, is that they understand this, that most people are easily tricked, but not easily convinced that they're being tricked. You know, they say like it's easier to trick someone than to convince them that they've been tricked, you know? And so it's like, if you really have the motivation or the desire to be one of these salespeople, um, you know, influencers, whatever, like a lot of what they do is just gaming other people in some way, you know. For influencers, it's like jumpy, quick videos, you know, that hold people's attention and get them to keep watching. And for salespeople, it's like using all the sales tactics, um, like, you know, just to get people to buy whatever you are selling, like spotting objections and, um, you know, I don't know all the sales tactics, but I know there's a lot of them, like the foot in the door, or like the asking questions to keep people talking and keep all the power on the side of the salesperson. And like for the narcissist, it's like just placating people in order to allow, like placating people to and saying what they want to hear, and you know they want to hear, in order to get them their attention on you, because the narcissist desires all the attention, and like using whatever tactic to keep people's attention on you. And for the psychopath or the sociopath, it would be like being very charming, in order to be a parasite off of people. And, you know, not all psychopaths kill people, but for the ones that do, you know, lulling people into a sense of security, and then ultimately it's their demise. But so, anyways, like it's just people are good at responding to things, and you can easily like put out just simple parameters, like simple situations for people to follow, like by manipulating their psychological biases, like um, giving people a false dichotomy, or like a black and white scenario, you know. And like a lot of people don't know if it's like there's more options, or like, you know, using rhetoric like appeal to authority, appeal to emotions, pathos, logos, ethos, like appeal to reputation or whatever. And just like it's so easy to convince people, you know. And it's like when you really look at, because it's difficult, life is difficult, when you really look at the uncertainty and like the true faith that it takes to break out of society's like mental grasp and into a place of your own calmness and like serenity and tranquility and peace, where you're not being sold on what society is trying to tell you, and sell you on. That's difficult. So it's like, yeah, I think the stage is just sort of set for people to be like played, um, or preyed upon, you know? So, yeah. Anyways, that's all I really want to say for now. I kind of rambled a ton here, but it was nice to just ramble a bit. Helps me get my thoughts kind of together, so.